up, New Orleans. Good morning, happy Thursday, and welcome to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my super producer, Nara Sanders, and my co-host, Lee Will Sutton. Hey, Will. So, Will is on the line
And
from DC. How's it going, Will?
fabulous, fabulous. It's a heck of a thing up here. All kinds of wonderful things to see and do. And of course, we got a big birthday celebration coming up this weekend. The president is having all these military people march in his parade. And so there's military people all over the streets. Things are closed off. Got all this metal on the streets to try to mitigate the impact of this heavy equipment coming across Washington, D.C. streets. It's quite a thing to see.
Yeah, so I know we plan to have our congressman on this morning. Are there any things in particular that you
Absolutely.
would like to discuss with him?
Well, the congressman, of course, has been very concerned about a number of things, and that includes the most recent announcement by the president about shutting down FEMA after this hurricane season. The president says that the states should take on that responsibility. And we're talking about millions of dollars. And it's not just Louisiana, but states across this nation rely on FEMA to support them after major incidents. So in California, it's wildfires. In other places, it might be snowstorms or tornadoes. And of course, in our area, it's bad storms and hurricanes. Think back to, for those of who are old enough, Hurricane Betsy, Hurricane Camille. Think back to Hurricane Rita, more recently Hurricane Ida. A lot of the, and then of course Katrina 20 years ago, coming up this August. There are things that would not have been taken care of as quickly, particularly individuals who needed help without FEMA support and without FEMA dollars. So I know the congressman has a lot of thoughts about that. And Louisiana is one of the poorest states. I mean, so to even look at the richest states and cutting off FEMA is a heck of a thing on the impact of any state budget. And I don't know many states that can be prepared for taking on the type of work that FEMA does. I know he also has been following the Republican reconciliation budget, and that passed the House and that moved on into the Senate. And so that's where we're watching to see how things are moving along with the hopes. As he told us last week, we're hoping that some Republicans have enough sense to make sure that if this thing isn't stopped altogether, that there are enough changes to make it more reasonable. Because right now, this bill, as it's over there in the Senate, would be devastating for Louisiana and for the nation. So we certainly want to talk to the congressman about that. And just those couple of things. And then, there are other things that are going on in federal government and state of Louisiana, and it'd be good to get his thinking. I know he mentioned Men's Health Week last week, but it's such an important issue. It might be good if we have time to talk a little bit about that. So those are some of the things that are on my mind as I sit in the congressman's office in the Cannon Building in Washington, D.C. And of course, we got that big, I'll call it a birthday parade coming up. My understanding is that the congressman won't have any reason to participate in that, but I'm sure he has some thoughts about that as well.
Well, I want to pick his brain about there's this report that ICE is getting ready to send tactical units to 5 sanctuary cities to mirror what they're doing in Los Angeles, and those cities are Seattle, Chicago, New York City, Philadelphia, and Northern Virginia. So I'm wondering what the congressman has to say about that, as it seems to be a direct attack on Democratic leadership. So
Yeah, yeah, that would be absolutely good to get his thoughts on that as well. I mean, it's always good to have a conversation with the congressman. Um, we could talk about any number of things for
yeah, that's a
a period of
conversation, but I
time.
also want to understand what is Congress doing to stop some of this stuff. Because if we could just send United States military into United States cities, I mean, on United States soil to attack American citizens in the name of immigration, I mean, where are we going? This, I mean, there's no, it's, and it's all, it's, he said it, he's done it everywhere except where Democratic leadership is. So he's saying this is what his tactic is going to be all across the country as it relates to Democratic leadership. So I want to know what can Congress do? Who can stop him?
Well, I think that's a good thing to talk to the congressman about, and you know, I don't think any day or any week goes by that he doesn't talk about his three C's. So my guess is that one of those things that he will talk about is that third C, that it can't just be on Congress; it's got to be on the people. So if there are enough of us who care and enough of us who dislike what's happening, then there's got to be more energy, more drive, more phone calls, more emails to protest against this. So maybe we're in Louisiana, maybe we're in Washington, D.C. So maybe we can't be in Los Angeles to join those protests, but we can be supportive of them and their efforts, especially with the social media. I mean, there's so many of us. Of course, my 94-year-old dad is down on social media, but we can make sure that we have a voice through other means. We don't always have to be every place these days, and I'm sure the people in Los Angeles who are experiencing this horror would be very happy with that. And some of his congressional colleagues in California and the city of Los Angeles, Mayor Bass and others would be happy to hear from us that they know we've got their back.
Yeah, well, I'm just curious to understand, because it seems to me the third C for the congressman is what exactly is happening in Los Angeles, and then the people can come together, and then the system inserts bad actors into peaceful protests, and now you have video of police officers vandalizing their own cars to blame it on the folk who are protesting, and not a response to the people uprising is for the government to put the military on its own citizens. So what does that say about protests? So you protest and the government still intervenes. What happens then? When the third C is active and people are doing what they're supposed to do to protest things that they're not comfortable with in government, and then government's response is violence, is to escalate violence. So I don't know. I don't know where we go. I'm curious to
Well,
see what the congressman has
I,
to say.
I, I hear you, Dr. Wyatt. I understand. Certainly with the way the presidential election turned out, that was a bummer for so many of us and frustrating and disgusting. But after a few hours, a few days, a few weeks, we got to get back up and we got to be in the fight. I mean, we can't just lay down and watch these things happen and say it'll be what it'll be. It is what it is. I really don't like it is what it is, because that's basically saying I give in. It doesn't have to be that way. And with good folks like Congressman Troy Carter, Cleo Fields, and others, we need them to fight for us. They're in it every day, even when they're home. But things like this, I mean, who would have anticipated just a few weeks ago that there would be such a thing happening in Los Angeles as has been happening a few days ago? So in some of these cases, these are things that are happening that we wouldn't have imagined with an American government where we have different philosophies, different approaches, but there are some things that were just fundamental, moral, expected ways to operate. And this is not one of them.
Well, in addition to the Trump administration um, deploying United States military on United States soil to battle United States citizens for, because they're protesting the way that the ICE organization is operating. In addition to them doing that, the organization is also arresting journalists out there. The National Press Club is demanding an answer, saying police cannot pick and choose when the First Amendment applies. Journalists in Los Angeles were not caught in the crossfire, they were targeted. So the article is saying that the journalists from CNN were targeted for detainment by LAPD while covering the immigration protest fallout in LA. So
Yeah,
they're even targeting the press so you can suppress what is happening out there, so no one outside of Los Angeles will know the truth about what's happening there. So I mean, it has to.
yeah,
When the people are doing their part, what more do we do to ensure that the government does not turn itself on its own citizens?
right. And I understand that. And there was video a few days ago of one woman journalist who a person dressed in a law enforcement uniform or type uniform, where he clearly moved his gun in her direction and fired. Yes, a rubber bullet, but rubber bullets can hurt, and there's no way he did not know that she was a journalist because she was doing a live stand-up with her back to him. She was not threatening him at all. She was clearly not demonstrating. She was doing a live interview. And even if she or others are demonstrating peacefully, that's certainly not something that we want to see from our nation's government.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely curious about what this is going to look like if he's allowed to continue to do this in other Democratic led states. Because I mean, there's video out there, and we spoke about this yesterday on the show of him saying he would not go, or you should not go into a state with the military without the governor requesting it, and then you turn around and the governor is saying no, don't come. We have enough of our partner agencies in the state that we don't need military here, and you go against what the governor's asking and you deploy the military anyway, and then you start to threaten to arrest the governor of the state because he has a difference of opinion about how we address these protests or that are against immigration. So I mean, I'm curious to see what this is going to look like specifically
Well,
for sanctuary states.
we're experiencing this hour by hour, day by day, week by week. We've got this thing in Los Angeles, which is only being escalated. And we've got, meanwhile, a big celebration this weekend which is costing millions of dollars that could be spent on training and otherwise in the security of this nation. But he's determined to make that happen. All of these soldiers and military men and women have to be put up in the hotels, and they have to be given their orders for because it's not just a parade. There's a whole setup that has been going on. I've been here much of the week, and I've watched the growing numbers of military with heavy-duty weapons walking the street. It's quite a thing to see, and not what we expect from our nation's government with a Republican president or a Democratic president, with a Republican-led Congress or a Democratic-led Congress. These are not things that are normal. These are abnormal. And thank goodness we have WBOK. We have to continue to make people aware of these things. Certainly, we care a lot about New Orleans and the greater New Orleans area, but people need to be aware of what's happening in other parts of the nation because let's be clear. My opinion, I'm an opinion guy. I'm not an expert. I'm not an elected official. I'm certainly not a congressman. But what's happening in L.A. seems to be part of a game plan to scare people, to make people afraid, and your city may be next. Your city may be next. So we may be coming into Chicago, Atlanta, New York, Washington, D.C., Kansas City, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, with the same kind of thing, false pretenses, making a problem where there is none, and justifying it because the president can say, what is an emergency?
Well, we're getting ready to go to break, but when we come back, if you're an avid listener, you know that each and every Thursday is Congressman Troy Carter Thursdays here at WBOK. And on the other side of the break, we'll hear directly from our Congressman Troy Carter. Stay with us, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about
all day long.
Good morning and happy Thursday. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News, and here's a look at today's headlines. NOPD Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick issuing a surprise offer to escaped inmates Antoine Massey and Derek Groves. At a news conference yesterday, Kirkpatrick said if the men who have been on the run for almost a month turn themselves in, the city will provide them with a defense attorney. Massey and Groves are 2 of 10 inmates who escaped from the Orleans Parish Jail last month. They are the only ones still at large. A total of $100,000 is being offered for information leading to the arrest of both inmates. Then it is the final day of the legislative session in Baton Rouge. Many bills have already been passed, including one that will bring the University of New Orleans under the LSU system. Another requires the Department of Education, the Department of Corrections, and the Department of Children and Family Services to collect data on immigration statuses and report it to the state. Several other bills are still being discussed today. The session must wrap up by 6 tonight. And the LSU Tigers have officially arrived in Omaha ahead of the start of the College World Series. They'll face Arkansas this Saturday at 6 p.m., and the odds makers say the Tigers are the favorite to win it all. Let's hope they're right. That's a look at today's headlines. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News. Have a great day.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat, brought to you by Lowe's.com. Stars Entertainment recently reported it added 530,000 subscribers in the U.S. during its last quarter, setting shares of the premium streaming and cable network soaring. Jeffrey Hirsch is president and CEO of Stars and said that a significant part of its recent success is that it's created programming targeting women and underrepresented groups.
In 2016, when we launched our app, what we saw from the data, and it was the first time we really got data on our subscribers, it was that women was driving our business. And so we leaned in significantly into that. And so our content is really only focused on women and underrepresented audiences, and not only on screen, but in the director's chair, in the writer's room, all the way through the office. 70% of my direct reports are women and 80% are women of color.
Power has been a big hit for the network and appeals directly to black viewers. Stars has already rolled out several spin-offs of the show and plans to add at least one more to its lineup soon. I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner on the Black Business Beat.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies the same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at Lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
Working as a dedicated Fidelity advisor, I always ask, what's important to you? I'll look at those priorities and goals alongside your full financial picture to build a comprehensive plan designed to help grow and protect your wealth. With proactive portfolio insights and an eye on taxes, I'm here to help you make the most of your money. I'm Laura Maxwell, and I'm a dedicated Fidelity advisor. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Connect with NOLA Public Schools. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X for the latest updates. Sign up for District Digest, our official newsletter where we share district achievements, celebrate student successes, and keep you informed about our vision of providing a high-quality education. And don't miss our school board meetings. Watch in person or live stream on YouTube. Stay informed. Stay engaged. Visit NOLAPublicSchools.com today. Again, that's NOLAPublicSchools.com.
Do you know what United Way can do for you and your community? Find out by listening to United Way and You every Thursday at noon on WBOK 1230. United Way continues to fight for the most vulnerable members of the community. Find out how this Thursday and every Thursday at noon.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Thursday, everyone. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my super producer, Nara Sanders, and my co-host, the Will Sutton. Hey, Will. As you know, each and every Thursday, it's Congressman Troy Carter Thursdays here at WBOK, and we are so blessed to be in conversation with our congressman. So welcome back, Congressman Troy Carter. How are you this morning?
I am fantastic. Always great to be with you and the great Will Sutton right here at the nation's capital, here in my office and on Capitol Hill, where we fight for you every single day. It's always a blessing to be with you, Dr. Wyatt, and all the incredible listeners at WBOK.
Thank you so much. And I'll let Will start off because he had some questions as it related to Trump's threats to dismantle FEMA after 2025. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, so we got, every day it's something with this president, and not just what did he eat today. I mean, he's taken actions that are really incredible, remarkable in a bad way. And one of the latest ones is to say that after this hurricane season, he wants to dismantle FEMA, the Federal Emergency Administration Agency. He wants to dismantle this agency. That this is not a Louisiana-only thing, but of course we're so susceptible to bad storms and hurricanes and damage. And just talk about the idea of eliminating FEMA and what that would mean and what that impact would be on Louisiana.
Well, listen, it is probably one of the most ridiculous things he's ever done. And we know he's done a lot. But the reality that you would, and I'll use his words, have Americans wean themselves off of FEMA. How do you wean yourself off of the resources that assist people in rebuilding every single year? Listen, he says he's going to do it at the end of this hurricane season. Well, guess what? Hurricane season comes every year. It's going to come next year. It's going to come the following year and every subsequent year after that. If science tells us one thing, it tells us that it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Natural disasters are not just in those declared areas that we often see. They're becoming prevalent in places where we haven't seen storms before. We have mudslides in North Carolina. We have flooding and tornadoes and hurricanes and wildfires in places we've never had them before. which is demonstrative of the fact that we need a stronger, more robust FEMA, a reimagined, a reformed FEMA. Listen, I agree. FEMA is riddled with issues. I'd be the first one to tell you that we've been very critical of their response time, critical of how they make people jump through hoops they need not jump through. But I will tell you this. I will take them with a broken leg over not having them at all. I'll take FEMA with its flaws versus having it done by a state that certainly cannot do it. The state has trouble managing what it has. You notice Governor Landry has not said a word about this. Why? Because he knows this is not good. For states to have to manage FEMA or a FEMA-like type operation is irresponsible and reckless. Let me tell you further why. We now have storms in places that we've never had them before. So to decentralize the resources of FEMA is a clear mistake. We need to keep them centralized, agile, and mobile and ready to go in those areas where they come. What happens when the next unforeseen storm goes to someplace that doesn't have the resources that FEMA has because it's been sent to states? What's going to happen? What's going to happen when it happens, a hurricane hits a place it's never hit before? Because they're not going to give resources to
Happened in North Carolina.
Happened in North Carolina. Louisiana knows oh too well. Many people are still rebuilding from previous storms. Listen, I understand. And I'd be the first. In fact, I have been very critical of the operations of FEMA. But I've also been very clear that what we need to do is to reform it, rebuild it, strengthen it, and give it the kind of resources that people are first and not red tape. This notion that we take it away, get rid of it, and give less money, did you hear him say that? We're going to give less money and give it to the states. State can't manage this. The state, even if the state had all the money in the world, the apparatus of dealing with FEMA and dealing with natural disasters is a 365-day-a-year operation. It's not when the storm comes. It's anticipation of the storm. It's preparing for evacuation routes. It's preparing for coordination with other state agencies and other surrounding states. Listen, the reality is, if you know anything about management, anything about government, anything about budgeting, anything about natural disasters, as all of the experts have said, this is a mistake.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you, of course, were in the state legislature for a number of years before the voters decided to elevate you to Congress.
Yes.
One of the toughest things that the legislature has to do in Baton Rouge is figure out how to spend the money that we have. Federal government does not have to balance the budget, but has to be fiscally responsible. The state must balance a budget every year, and there can be the philosophical arguments about what to spend where, and all. The governor presents the budget. The legislature is responsible for reviewing that budget and all. But one of the things that does not get as much money is federal emergency management agency like things that we can anticipate. So we have money for emergencies, but we don't have FEMA level money. And that money would have to, because we know the storms are coming, that money would have to come from K through 12 education, higher education, from community programs, the support of municipalities and parishes, or am I wrong?
You're absolutely correct, Will, because in this, if you envision the budget as a pie chart, 3/4 of that pie chart can't be cut. 3/4 is constitutionally protected, which means you can only cut K through 12, healthcare. You can only cut in those areas that are not protected by the state constitution, which many of us have argued for years that we need to fix that, to open the whole thing up and revisit it. We haven't had that check since 1974 to determine where the last time there was a Constitutional Convention, to determine how do we undo the protections of all these other agencies so we can further protect healthcare, education. Because right now, the only thing on the chopping block are those issues. And what happens in the case of a natural disaster? When a natural disaster comes, what's the first thing the governor does? He makes a declaration of emergency. And then what does that do? That triggers the ability for the federal government to give you more money. Now, roll back, take that away, because FEMA no longer is in that business. Natural disaster comes, you've already been given your quote-unquote allotment, as the president said, which will be less money. Now what's going to happen? You're going to have to cut. Either you're going to cut resources to people who desperately need it, or guess what, ma'am? Guess what, sir? That blue roof that you got, that's as much as you're going to get out of the federal government. That business that was torn down and you can't get it back up, guess what? Sorry, you're just going to be a casualty. I'm sorry, Mr. Joe, who's on the rooftop. You're going to be there a little bit longer because we don't have choppers and helicopters to get to you. You see my point? It's massive. FEMA is massive. And it has to be centralized. Imagine all these resources, spread them out 50 states. It's not manageable. It's not even a realistic suggestion. It's unfortunate that the President of the United States, arguably the most powerful man in the world, would even say something like this. It is, and I'll say this as respectful as I can in a disrespectful setting, it is idiotic to think that somehow we are going to protect property and lives without having a FEMA-type organization. You can change the name, you can reform it, but you can't get rid of it.
Yeah, and for those in Louisiana who have been through a number of storms, we're talking about funds that can go to individuals as a part of this. So $750 for a emergency needs allocation, $300 for cleaning and sanitation. Those might not seem like large amounts, but when you experience a disaster and you can quickly get a few dollars to take care of something, that makes a huge difference. And that's just an indication of what FEMA can do and has done, and also with federal housing assistance post-disasters as well. And it's not the only thing storm-related that the president is doing, because you talked recently about BRIC, and so that's the whole idea of mitigation. So let's not wait until the storms hit, because we have a history. We know what happens. Let's mitigate what happens. And can you talk a little bit about BRIC as a part of this?
Yeah, well, when we talk about BRIC, that is, again, one of those situations where, God forbid, we would find ourselves in a situation where we got rid of the very funds that are used to build up after the last storm. So, if we didn't have BRIC funds after Katrina, Ida, Helene, every other storm would have wiped us out just as bad. But no, we use BRIC resources to fortify, to build our levees up, to strengthen our systems. We took the science, the devastation, and the pain of the last storm. We were able to evaluate and say, only if we built that levee a few feet higher, only if we had been able to build up these plains, there would have been less flooding. Only if we had been able to boom, boom, boom. See the point? BRIC funds are the rehabilitation after the accident. How do you get better? You have to rehabilitate. How do you get better? You don't take away after the accident the ability to go to rehabilitation. You have to have more rehabilitation. BRIC funds are the quintessential rehabilitation after the storm. It allows us to rebuild our levees. So now you're going to say, we're going to take away BRIC funds, which means hurricane season comes, we have topping of levees, and now we say, boy, we've learned now. I see what we could have done differently. But guess what? We don't have money to fix it now. That makes no sense. Because if you address it with the BRIC funds, you're going to have less perils. You're going to have fewer calls for FEMA dollars. You're going to have fewer neighborhoods that are flooding. You're going to have fewer businesses that are harmed. Why would you take away the preventive care in exchange for more after-the-fact care? Preventive care is always cheaper. After-the-fact is always more expensive. It almost lends yourself to something I think I heard you say earlier, Dr. Wyatt, and that is, what is he really up to? And listen, I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any point, but at some point you have to ask yourself, you want to take millions of people off of Medicaid in Louisiana, billions across the country. You want to take away an opportunity to get educated. You want to remove the safety net of Social Security. You want to throw veterans and children and people with disabilities and the working poor into the homeless status of being unhoused. You want to take away security of people being protected neighborhoods and let everybody carry guns like it's the Wild Wild West. You want to remove all of the funding that we fought for in the Biden administration to provide resources to protect communities so they can breathe clean air and drink clean water. You want to take away the freedom of speech for American citizens to challenge their government and to have peaceful protests. The question that needs to be asked is, what are you trying to do, Mr. President? Do you want to kill us? Do you want to dismantle America? Do you want a dictatorship? Do you want to bring us to a state of tyranny? Do you want to be Putin? You're going to spend nearly $50 million to have a parade for self-aggrandizing of yourself while cutting billions of dollars out of the budget, nearly $1 trillion, $880 billion rather, nearly $1 trillion you want to take out of the budget, but you can find this spare $50 million to have a parade, to have all of our men and women in uniform salute you. You can go to Mar-a-Lago every weekend and spend millions and millions of dollars playing golf and charging it back to the taxpayers of America. You can sell Teslas on the front steps of the White House. You can invite trillionaires and billionaires to a private meeting and sell crypto coins that have zero value and then put the profit in your pocket. What are you trying to do, Mr. President? This is what Americans have to realize. We are under an all-out attack. Make no bones about it. And as you've heard me say, and Will mentioned earlier, the 3 C's. The Congress, and we're going to continue to fight with every strength that we have to push back. We've demonstrated that we held them. We worked 30-plus hours around the clock, 2 days in a row, or twice in 1 week, rather, to demonstrate our willingness to never leave the table, to fight for the American people with all our might. But the reality is we are still outvoted. They've got more votes than we do. They've got the House, they've got the Senate, they've got the presidency, but we will not retreat. We will not quit. We will continue to fight because we know how to. We have been against the odds before as black people in America. So quitting is not an option. Rolling over is not an option. We will continue to fight, but we need all 3 C's to work. Congress, the courts, which some days are better than others. We're winning a lot of these. But we have to continue to push on the court and the backstop ultimately of the Supreme Court. But then the community has to continue doing its job, which you're doing a phenomenal job of. Thank God to WBOK giving unfettered access to facts, to talk about what's going on in our nation's capital. No more can we have this huge divide between our hometowns and our capital. Thank God for WBOK bringing it closer to the people so you can hear the truth about what's going on. What mainstream media doesn't always tell you, because the president, as a part of that whole litany of things I just mentioned, is also controlling who he lets tell his story, kicking journalists out of the press gaggle because they don't agree with him or because they ask what he or his press secretary deems to be a stupid question. Listen, when we start censoring the media, these are all the markings of someone who wants to build a dictatorship, a tyrannical form of government where we have a king and not a president. He is calling emergency after emergency after emergency. Why? because it gives him an opportunity to short-circuit the process, to short-circuit the powers of Congress. Because when he calls a natural emergency, a natural disaster, an emergency, then that short-circuits and allows him to kick into action. Why is he doing what he's doing in Los Angeles? Because he wants to clip the wings of Governor Newsom. Governor Newsom is, by Constitution, the governor is in control of the National Guard, except in the case of an emergency. So what does he do? He declares an emergency, and he, in fact, makes it an emergency by having the kind of things that we see happening, agitating, bringing in military-type forces, causing more trouble than fixing it. This is all playing out while the world watches. And many of our Republican leaders are complicit because they're rolling over and they're letting this happen and they're not doing anything, even though in private settings they're scratching their heads saying, oh my God, this is wrong. If you think it's wrong, do something about it. Step up. So what? Let them beat you. Don't get reelected. Who cares? You got elected to make a difference, not get reelected. You got a difference to change. You got elected to change things and to make it better for people. If you only got elected to get reelected, then you've already failed. That's the message I send to my Republican colleagues every single day, because the issues that are plaguing us under the Trump administration are not just dangerous, rather, for Democrats. They're dangerous for Democrats and Republicans and independents and all people, because this president has demonstrated that he only cares about power, greed, and money. And that is the beginnings of breaking down our country and killing the America that we know it to be.
Well, listen, Congressman, I could not agree more with you. We have to go to break. If you're just tuning in, you know what it is. It's Congressman Troy Carter Thursdays here at WBOK. And if you want to engage with your congressman, you can do so at 504-582-9422. We're going to go to break, but when we come back, we'll have more with Congressman Troy Carter right here at WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
This is your news update for WBOK from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Another partly cloudy day, hot, and chances for showers and storms. Highs reach the low 90s, but could feel as hot as 105. Scattered showers and storms arrive this afternoon with that daytime heating. Heavy downpours are possible with strong winds, but not everyone will see the rain. More of the same as we go into Friday and into the weekend. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Hey, New Orleans, look for important changes to your natural gas service. This summer, Delta Utilities takes over for Entergy Gas with a Louisiana-born, Louisiana-based approach to safe, clean, reliable natural gas. No interruptions or rate changes due to the transition, just dependable service and modernized technology to keep you running smoothly. Get to know us at deltautilities.com and stay tuned for more later this summer. Delta Utilities, focused on natural gas, committed to New Orleans.
WBOK and LCMC Health are proud to present Keeping You Well Cafe. 60 Minutes with LCMC Health, where the doctors speak directly to the people of New Orleans. LCMC Health is committed to improving the quality of care here in New Orleans, the Gulf South, and beyond. The Keeping You Well Cafe is another way for LCMC Health to engage with the community. At the Keeping You Well Cafe, LCMC Health joins WBOK and local businesses to answer your questions about wellness and health.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Good morning. Wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
And we are back. Happy Thursday. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to our super producer, the Nara Sanders, and our co-host, Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good morning, New Orleans.
On the line with our Congressman Troy Carter. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wyatt and Will. Thank you, guys. I can't say enough about opening the airwaves to the people.
So, Congressman, I just wanted to ask you your thoughts on this administration's intent to continue to send military force in Democratic-led states. They've made the declaration that they're going to do it in an additional 4 or 5 states. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, it goes back to this president's intent to militarize government, to take over, period, across the country, but particularly to set its sights on those states and communities that are led by Democrats. California is a perfect example. He often criticizes the liberals, quote unquote, in California. He often takes shots at Governor Newsom. He often talks about Hollywood and California and wanting to dismantle the power base that's there for Democrats. So it is not a unconscionable move of his, because he's telegraphed his moves. He has said that he wants to come after. So to send the military in to what, when it first started, was just in an isolated part of Los Angeles, not all over the state of California, not even all over Los Angeles. The notion that this was some statewide protest going on, it escalated as the president got involved, as they wanted to. I remind you, and Will has written on this. I think I've written some pieces way back when, but he certainly knows, and you do too as a historian, that, how did we infiltrate the Black Panthers? Mm-hmm. We gave them weapons. Mm-hmm. We infiltrated and we gave them weapons. Why? So the government would have an excuse to shoot you. Mm-hmm. So you go and you create a situation where you are exasperating the protests, which gives you the opportunity to retaliate against the protesters, which gives you just what you want. You want riots because you want to be able to demonstrate and exercise martial law. As I mentioned in my comments moments ago, when the president is able to declare a state of emergency, it gives him the opportunity to supersede the power of the governor. He wants to be able to be the president, the governor, the mayor, the Congress, the courts, and the community. Mm-hmm. We can't let this happen. It's playing out right in front of us. So you are correct, ma'am, to identify that there is a pattern of going into democratically controlled areas. He even wants to go into other countries. You see what he's done in South Africa, or what he's attempting to do by allowing these so-called farmers, and now we realize that we're not farmers, claiming that they were victims of genocide, which we know isn't true. We see what he wants to do with Greenland and other places that he wants to take over in Canada. This president wants to rule the world and wants to do it from a kingdom, not a presidency. But hashtag, we won't let them, because we're going to keep bringing this attention to the people through WBOK, through the community, through social media, through the streets, through the courts, through the Congress, and through the community. And we're going to keep fighting. Listen, before we had members of Congress, before we had governors, before we had presidents, before we had mayors, before we had state legislators, we had the Black church, we had the community. We could never forget from whence we came, and we have to lean back on those practices of using our members of the clergy, of using our community leaders, We got to use the Rudy Lombards, the H. Rap Browns. You got to use the people that were out there in the community that were fighting for us, the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, and others who demonstrated that when we unify together, we can't be stopped. We have to go back to all three. And the community is what started us. It's what's given us our strength, and we can never forget about that strength, which is inherent within us.
I know we're going to have to let you go soon, and the show will be wrapping up, but let's make sure we touch base on the Republican reconciliation process. So where do we stand? What are your concerns? And what are your hopes for how we move this forward?
Reconciliation, as you know, got out of the House with one vote. We even had Republicans to take to the floor and recognize how flawed this bill is. The bill went to the Senate. The Senate is now pouring over it and recognizing that it is a greatly flawed bill. We even had the audacity of some members of Congress to come and say, oh, we didn't know that was in the bill. We didn't read it. Well, 2 days ago, we went back to the House Rules Committee where they had an opportunity. If you didn't want to vote for it then, here's your chance. Guess what? They still voted for it, which again demonstrates that it's just smoke and mirror. It's games. They know what's wrong, so they're trying to now act as if ignorance is a defense. It is not. The American people will not be fooled by any of your games. You have an opportunity because this bill, in some way, shape, or form, will come back to the House and we'll have a chance to vote on it again. Because once it goes to the Senate, if it's amended in any way, then it has to come back to the House for another vote. So it's not over, people. Please know that we are fighting and we're pushing to make sure that this is not over. There's going to be multiple bites at the apple. Hence the reason I keep asking everyone to use your voices. Call your Republican leaders. Send them text messages. Offer to try to get a meeting with them. Do it peacefully. I cannot underscore enough. Do it peacefully. But ask for a meeting. Use your social media feeds to talk about. Follow me at Rep Troy Carter. I post multiple times a day with facts about what's going on in Washington on all social media feeds at Rep Troy Carter. And we will keep you informed of what's going on. This notion that reconciliation should be the end all be all. I started telling you last week about the bird bath. And I know we're going to run out of time, but next week I really like to kind of spend some time talking about that. The bird bath is a process that was started by then Senator Robert Byrd, hence the name. When a reconciliation, which is primarily a budget tool, is passed, the bird bath is a process by which we comb through any poison pills that may have been snuck in to the bill. Hence all the ugliness about the president being able to ignore court orders or having the ability to override this or that and the other. All those things should be stripped out in the Senate during that process of making sure that it is only those things that are budgetary that get through the reconciliation process. I'd like to really delve into that and help everyone really get a full picture of what that means. So I believe that there are a number of senators, all Democrats are on the right side, and a handful of Republicans. So we're hopeful that we continue to keep the pressure on through venues like this and so many others, that they will realize the American people are not stupid, and we're going to get you back. We're going to get you on election day. We're going to get you when it's time to vote. We're going to get you when it's time to go and demonstrate our constitutional right to vote for those people who fight for us and to vote against those who don't. And that message has to be loud and clear and sent every single day. And as I always say, every time there's an election, you've got to vote. We're in this predicament because many of us stayed home. We control our destiny at the ballot box.
Well, it's always a pleasure, Congressman, to have you, and we're looking forward to continuing this conversation with you because I'm looking forward to seeing what the Senate is going to do in terms of stripping the harmful provisions out of the bill and what the House is going to do when it gets it back. So we're keeping our eye on this in particular because, as you say, it's not over, and we're very hopeful that we have you there fighting for us. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Hey, God bless you, and thanks, brother Will, being here at the nation's capital, expanding WBOK all the way to Washington D.C. and the People's House. I'm so honored to have him sitting here in my congressional office, in Cannon Office Building, in the United States Capitol. WBOK has gone national.
Well, thank you for being there, Will. Thank you, Congressman, for joining us. And listen, if you missed the opportunity, you can catch him next Thursday, each and every Thursday, right here on WBOK 1230 a.m. What New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
All day long.
God bless you, Dr. Wyatt. God bless you, Brother Sutton. God bless all the listeners, viewers, management, ownership of WBOK. Let's keep sharing the good news and the news we need to know in WBOK. God bless you.
Thank you, Congressman. Listen, we're going to go to break, y'all, but when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about the news. I have some updates on some stories we spoke about on yesterday, so stay with us right here. WBOK 1230 a.m. what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
WBOK New Orleans, home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
New Schools for New Orleans is committed to keeping and finding great teachers for our students in Orleans Parish. If you or someone you know is interested in becoming a teacher for the 25-26 school year, let us help you. We've created the New Orleans Teacher Job Board, which is the official job platform of public schools in New Orleans. You can apply to any school in the city. Simply post your resume and provide information about yourself. Visit our website to learn more and apply. www.neworleansteacherjobboard.org.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Black Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock is warning FEMA may be unprepared for hurricane season, citing budget cuts and staffing shortages.
DOGE has hollowed out the agency, and we are woefully and inadequately prepared in terms of staff.
He's urging DHS to act. Meanwhile, President Trump says FEMA will be phased out after the season ends November 1st, shifting disaster response to states. Prosecutors in Sean Diddy Combs' sex crimes trial say they'll likely rest the case by next Friday. A juror's impartiality is under scrutiny, with the defense accusing prosecutors of trying to dismiss a black juror. And former MTV VJ Ananda Lewis has died at 52 after a long battle with breast cancer. She revealed her diagnosis back in 2020, saying she delayed mammograms due to a fear of radiation. Her sister confirmed her passing online. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Show. Happy Thursday, everyone. Listen, if you're just joining us, you missed an opportunity to engage with your congressman as we do each and every Thursday right here on WBOK. But fret not, he'll be back on next Thursday bringing us all of the information as it pertains to what is happening on the national stage. And right now, we do know that the big ugly bill is in the hands of the Senate. And once they make the adjustments that they're going to make, it has to go back to the House. So let's hope that the House continues to fight to strip it of those harmful provisions that exist, but we'll keep you updated as our congressman keeps us updated right here on WBOK. But right now, I want to give you some updated information as it relates to a case we talked about on yesterday, and that was the case of Kyle Coleman, the freshman student from Morehouse, whose car was found wrecked and abandoned. His cell phone was inside the car, but the young man was not. Morehouse College has issued a statement, and it says, "It is with profound sorrow that we share the heartbreaking news that Kyle Coleman, class of 2028, a rising sophomore majoring in business administration with the finance concentration from Gainesville, Virginia, has passed away after having been reported missing over the weekend. Student Services has been in close contact with Kyle's family throughout this tragic time and will continue to offer them our full support. Our entire Morehouse family grieves this unimaginable loss. Kyle was known for his warmth, humility, and peaceful spirit. He was actively involved in several campus organizations, including Morehouse Business Association, Lighthouse, the Leadership Education and Development Certificate Program, and the Consultants Club. He also enjoyed playing pickleball, basketball, and tennis with his friends. He had recently taken a serious interest in learning the guitar, showing the same dedication and joy he brought to everything he pursued. Kyle is survived by his mother and father, Kimian and Keith Coleman, class of 95, with whom he enjoyed watching stand-up comedy in Seinfeld, as well as his older brother Christopher and older sister Kayla, with whom he found great peace in spending quality time. We ask that you keep his loved ones in your thoughts and prayers as they navigate this heartbreaking loss. We encourage all members of our community to seek support if needed. Students can contact the counseling services for an appointment. May we honor Kyle's life by holding tightly to community, ambition, and peace. That is the official statement as it relates to the passing of rising sophomore Kyle Coleman. We talked about his story yesterday because his car was found after he had an accident, and the car triggered the 911 feature, which notified police. They sent out a unit. They found his car, found his cell phone, but the young man was not on the scene. They have since recovered his body in a body of water. And Morehouse has issued an official statement saying that Kyle Coleman is no longer with us. So our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, in particular his mother and father, who were desperately looking for him. We also have a case right here in New Orleans whereby a young lady went into the Mississippi River. The friends who were on the scene, friends in quotation marks, say that the young lady jumped into the water. The family is saying they believe she was pushed into the water, but nevertheless, her body has not yet been recovered. I believe they called off the search, and the family is now grappling with trying to make peace with planning a funeral that will not consist of having the child's remains or the young lady's remains. So hopefully, Ms. Duplessis is her mother, that there is some real closure to this story so that the mother can find peace. And so our hearts and prayers go out as well to the Ms. Duplessis and her family as they navigate this space now that their daughter is missing and presumed to be deceased. So I just wanted to bring you those additional updates because those were two of the stories we were talking about on yesterday. But if you missed the conversation with Congressman Troy Carter, we were actually also talking about this idea that the Trump administration wants to send tactical units in 5 sanctuary cities in the wake of what is happening in California. And those 5 sanctuary cities are Democratic-led by mayors in Seattle, Chicago, New York City, Philadelphia, and Northern Virginia. I wanted our congressman input on it because we're a sanctuary city as well. And I do know that there is some discussion around a House bill that is floating around. If I'm not mistaken, they may have the signature. They may have enough to send it to the governor for his signature, but it is supposed to be a law or an act or a House bill, I'm sorry, that focuses on immigration enforcement with the particular lens on folk who they believe are preventing law enforcement from complying with federal immigration detainers. And I'm talking about that because we're a sanctuary city, our sheriff's office is caught up in what this bill seems to take an aim at. The sheriff is in charge of the individuals who are housed in that facility, and the government is now coming up with this idea that they will penalize even law enforcement if you don't turn over people who are presumed to be illegal immigrants in line with this federal immigration enforcement. I'm curious to see what that's going to look like. What does a consent decree even mean when you have something like a House bill being floated around that will penalize you if you don't comply with their demand, even if that demand does not align with a consent decree or the foundational pillars of being a sanctuary city. So I don't know how this is going to turn out. I do know there's a House bill out there. I believe it is headed to the governor for his signature, but I'm really, really concerned about how is that going to play out? What exactly does that look like in places like a New Orleans and other sanctuary cities all across this country? And I'm extremely worried because we do know that there are verifiable reports now, because we've seen some of the interviews that Kristi Noem has done, and we do know that the government is using January 6 individuals, insurrectionists, to cosplay as ICE agents or to cosplay as governmental agents, and they're going to people's homes, they're raiding schools, they're going into churches, and they're doing so fully covered. No sort of governmental identification to show that you are working on behalf of law enforcement. I think it's very dangerous the way that the government is approaching this thing. And I do believe that it's orchestrated chaos, it's organized violence, and I do believe they've inserted bad actors into the protests in LA so that they can incite violence, so that they can have a reason to send in the National Guard and now the Marines. So listen, I'm completely worried, because if it can happen out there, it can happen here, it can happen anywhere. And Mike Johnson, the speaker, who is also happens to represent the state of Louisiana, he was asked, what's the difference between January 6th insurrectionists and the LA protesters? And the speaker, Mike Johnson, who happens to also be from the state of Louisiana, said there's a very clear distinction. They were met with the proper consequences. The response was no, they weren't. Trump calls them hostages and pardoned them, and Johnson supported it. So how are we actually going to be in this the conundrum about law and order and following the rules of engagement when our own government is going against everything that is foundational to a democracy? The government is giving full power to folk who tried to overturn the government, fought police officers, people died. And these are the folk who we are allowing to represent the government in terms of law and order and immigration enforcement. Something is wrong here, Don. Good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
A very good morning. I heard you say they're about to remove the Statue of Liberty. Really?
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say anything about the Statue of Liberty.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying you as in
the
powers that be.
I don't
They're
even
about
know
to take the Statue of Liberty out the bay. They say, hey, put it in storage. Like the Confederate statues, they're gonna take that one down.
You funny, yeah, Don. You funny. I mean, I think, when we go as petty as P. Hegseth is now changing the names of vessels back, because you remember we removed the names and replaced them with different names. He's gone as far as to find other people who have the same name so that they can go back and give the vessels the names of the Confederate leaders who they were changed from. This is what we're in the middle of here. This is what we're doing, with governmental resources. It's insane what we're spending our money on, but we're talking about waste, fraud, and abuse. We're talking about law and order, but we're actually deploying American military on American citizens on American soil. It's almost crazy to say out loud, but it's happening. It's weird.
But I heard people use the term sanctuary city. Or you're a sanctuary city. In other words, in the old Western days, are you harboring fugitives? If you're a sanctuary city, what they're implying to me is that you're lawless. You're a lawless area. Because without sanctuary, we wouldn't have, in New Orleans, wouldn't have black Indians, the Mardi Gras Indians, you wouldn't have, they call it draining the swamp. You wouldn't have Cajuns. Cajuns was expelled, and Louisiana, if you will, gave them sanctuary. The Cajuns, the Acadianians, because they wouldn't bow to the British crown. And that was in 1750s or whatever it was.
You said that before.
Before the Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah.
So when we talk about sanctuary, what are we actually talking about? We're talking about not sanctuary in the sense of benevolence. We're talking about sanctuary in harboring fugitives and those that are lawless. But if I could say one thing quickly, Dr. Wyatt, about the issue of when we look at the NCAA, I know you're a sports athlete, former athlete, and the NCAA $2.8 billion, the stress it's going to put on HBCU's land grant that's protected by the Second Morrill Act of 1890, not the first Morrill Act that LSU came in under, and Michigan State and Texas A&M. But if you look at the underfunding of HBCU land grants institutions since 1987 to the tune of about $13 billion, the 5 leading states for those underfunding is Tennessee, North Carolina, and Florida. Each underfunded their HBCUs by 2 public land grant and public universities by $2 billion each. Tennessee, $2 billion, North Carolina, $2 billion, Florida, $2 billion. The next 2 in the top 5 is Texas and Louisiana to the tune of $1 billion. And then you have the other 16 states that fill in, $800 million and so on. But it does say that the state of Ohio and the state of Delaware for this forensic audit did equitably fund their HBCUs in commensurate with the predominantly white institutions. But West Virginia is about $900 million. So there's 6, the state of West Virginia. And, the 2 HBCUs in West Virginia, Bluefield State and West Virginia State University, is predominantly white student by population, over 90%. So we have to really, I would like to hope that we really get these definitions and these words under what do they actually mean. Sanctuary means to those people harboring fugitives in a lawless town or city.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they've allowed these designations, right? And so what's the sense in a designation if we can have a person that just circumvents it without going through the proper protocols, those same protocols which gave the labels to these cities in the first place? So to me, that's all I want to understand is if laws are laws and they're supposed to be followed, why is it that we don't seem to have real guardrails in place for an individual who does not abide by those very guardrails and restrictions that they put on everyone else? So that's all I want to know. How
look, Dr. White, one minute quickly. The 1920 immigration law brought in most of your Europeans. The 1920 immigration law. The 1965 immigration law brought in the ancestors of a Kamala Harris and a Barack Hussein Obama.
Yeah. I appreciate you, Don. Thank you so much for always calling with your expertise. We appreciate you here. Listen, I really want to understand the direction we're going as a country and more so as a state because it's closer to home, and then right here as a city because we have a government on our state level that seems to mirror lockstep with what is happening on the national level. It's almost like we're doing our own mini versions here in Louisiana as it relates to what is happening on our national level. And I really and truly believe that unchecked power is extremely dangerous. And when you allow folk to just do as they please and it goes unchecked by the citizenry, this is how we have what we're seeing play out on a national stage. And it's harmful, so harmful that the checks and balances that are in place, like the House and the Senate, which makes up Congress, to try to keep them in line, that doesn't seem to work. And then when here we have the state legislators just doing any and everything that the governor wants without even concern for how that's going to impact the citizenry here. We have local police departments going into partnership with ICE. And ICE is operating extremely outside of the color of the law, and nobody's checking them. This is insane to me, what we invite into our communities, and then folk with questions and pushback always seem to be villainized. This has to make sense, because if you're watching it happen to other people, how soon do you believe they're going to arrive at your doorstep and start to do the same things you're watching happen to other folk? But you think because somehow your birth certificate is going to shield you from what is happening to them. If it's them today, it could very well be us. And that is why it's so important to ensure that as a collective, we are holding people accountable to what we want. And holding them accountable means they wouldn't be comfortable coming back to the state, coming back to the city, going to town halls and having conversations while they're disservicing us in Washington. Remove them from office. Make a lot of them one-term politicians, or in some of these cases, 25-year politicians making decisions for people that they have no sense of understanding about. This is insane. The president doesn't have to follow any judicial or congressional rules and protocols. Our governor don't have to follow. The state legislators in lockstep with the governor. Raising taxes on the poor, giving tax break to the wealthy, stripping public institutions of resources to fund private institutions, poisoning in neighborhoods with grain trains and whatnot. This is insane what we're allowing happen, and it's not even new. It's happening all over this country. But we have to go to break. When we come back, we're going to jump into it. We're going to talk about some local things that are happening that you need to keep your eye on, as well as tying it to what the national overall agenda is right here on WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
Hoops, Heat, The Truth, on demand. Ball Don't Lie is now live on all podcast platforms. Tap in, search WBOK Media, find Ball Don't Lie, and bring the fire with you wherever you go. Download, share, and leave that 5-star review, because the game doesn't stop when the show ends.
Good morning and happy Thursday. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News, and here's a look at today's headlines. NOPD Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick issuing a surprise offer to escaped inmates Antoine Massey and Derek Groves. At a news conference yesterday, Kirkpatrick said if the men who have been on the run for almost a month turn themselves in, the city will provide them with a defense attorney. Massey and Groves are 2 of 10 inmates who escaped from the Orleans Parish Jail last month. They are the only ones still at large. A total of $100,000 is being offered for information leading to the arrest of both inmates. Then it is the final day of the legislative session in Baton Rouge. Many bills have already been passed, including one that will bring the University of New Orleans under the LSU system. Another requires the Department of Education, the Department of Corrections, and the Department of Children and Family Services to collect data on immigration statuses and report it to the state. Several other bills are still being discussed today. The session must wrap up by 6 tonight. And the LSU Tigers have officially arrived in Omaha ahead of the start of the College World Series. They'll face Arkansas this Saturday at 6 p.m., and the odds makers say the Tigers are the favorite to win it all. Let's hope they're right. That's a look at today's headlines. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News. Have a great day.
It's Off the Top with Norman Robinson on WBOK 1230 AM.
The shocking news about the return of the skulls of 19 black Americans from Germany to New Orleans reminded me of a sobering quote by the late playwright, poet, and author James Baldwin, who said, "To be black and conscious in America is to be in a constant state of rage. That rage boils to the surface when confronted with the inhumane cruelty suffered at the hands of those who would be indifferent to our humanity. Such cruelty and inhumanity was inflicted upon 19 black Americans from New Orleans 150 years ago. After their deaths at Charity Hospital and denied a proper burial, they were stripped of their dignity, their heads removed from their bodies, and wrongfully and unethically taken to Germany for racist scientific research. They were exploited as part of a racist colonial pseudoscience theory that proliferated the belief that you could determine a person's intelligence by the shape of their skull, a seemingly insane means of attempting to prove the superiority of one race over another. After more than a century, the skulls of the 19 patients who died at Charity Hospital have now been returned to the Crescent City and honored with the burial they were denied in the 1870s. Dr. Eva Baham, a retired professor and researcher at Dillard University, led the repatriation committee. And we owe the modern-day German scientist, Dr. Baham, and her team gratitude for bringing them home and giving them a special homecoming. The unthinkable happened to them. This is Norman Robinson, Off the Top.
Connect with NOLA Public Schools. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X for the latest updates. Sign up for District Digest, our official newsletter where we share district achievements, celebrate student successes, and keep you informed about our vision of providing a high-quality education. And don't miss our school board meetings. Watch in person or live stream on YouTube. Stay informed. Stay engaged. Visit NOLAPublicSchools.com today. Again, that's NOLAPublicSchools.com.
Accrue NOLA is transforming how professionals connect and grow. Join them for Fed by Accrue, a community networking celebration that honors both Juneteenth and Pride Month while celebrating the power of diverse voices in business. This isn't a typical networking. Accrue has created a safe, inclusive space where genuine connections lead to meaningful collaborations. On Thursday, June 19th, innovators from across the greater New Orleans area and the Gulf South will gather at the lab on Ursulines Ave for purposeful conversation with industry leaders and authentic relationship building that advances your professional career and business growth. Accrue connects you with established industry leaders and emerging entrepreneurs who share practical insight and business resources. These connections translate into real opportunities for career advancement and business growth. Come join a community where authenticity meets opportunity, where diverse perspectives drive innovation, and where meaningful partnerships are built to last. Fed by Accrue, Thursday, June 19th from 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. at the lab, 2600 Ursulines Ave. Learn more and join the community at accruenola.com/RSVP.
Hey, New Orleans, look for important changes to your natural gas service. This summer, Delta Utilities takes over for Entergy Gas with a Louisiana-born, Louisiana-based approach to safe, clean, reliable natural gas. No interruptions or rate changes due to the transition, just dependable service and modernized technology to keep you running smoothly. Get to know us at deltautilities.com and stay tuned for more later this summer. Delta Utilities, focused on natural gas, committed to New Orleans.
This is Andronica Morris, host of Put Housing First. Join us every Tuesday at 12 o'clock where we will discuss how housing affects every aspect of our lives and what's necessary, what's needed to guarantee housing for all. Join us every Tuesday at 12 o'clock as we dig down deep onto the issues that affect all of us.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Happy Thursday, everyone. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my super producer, Nyron Sanders, and very soon we'll be on the line with my co-host, Will Sutton, doing a live remote from Washington, D.C. He was on earlier in the hour with our congressman, and pretty soon he'll be on the line with State Rep Cleo Fields. But as we wait for Will and State Rep Cleo Fields to join the call, I want to talk to you guys about a story that we talked about as it relates to Doug Harris and this nearly 20 years later New Orleans post-Katrina school reforms report that he put out. I want to talk to you about it in relationship to the recent resignation of Tulane scientists. She cites university censorship of pollution and racial disparity as it relates to her research. And I want you to try to make the connection. I'm going to tell you about it. Let's talk about it. So Senator Dr. Joseph Bowie has been a staunch advocate for trying to understand this charter experiment that has lasted for nearly 20 years and understand why, if it's an experiment, there was never any real data that we could use to measure whether or not the reforms were working. And we've been asking for data and reports. And just recently, he was denied a report for the end of the experiment because they went out of their way to espouse that the experiment is over. So now that the experiment is over, what are the findings? What have we learned? What can we glean from the last 20 years? But we've been battling for that year in and year out. And it makes me wonder the information that Doug Harris is allowed to put out, as long as he's talking about the reforms are working, he's publishing. But I do know that a local media outlet here was doing a story about the schools, and it had 3 parts, and only one of them saw the light of day. So it seems to me that when you are critical of the system, your reports and your information and your projects are suppressed. But when you are, putting out glowing reviews per your data, per your research, you seem to be able to publish. And I'm wondering why that same grace and ability to publish wasn't extended to this professor at the same institution. She worked for Tulane Universities. Her name is Kimberly Terrell. In her resignation letter, she accused the university of sacrificing academic freedom to appease Louisiana's Republican Governor Jeff Landry. Terrell, the director of community engagement at Tulane's Environmental Law Clinic, claimed the clinic had been placed under a complete gag order that barred her from making public statements about her research. Look, y'all, we're gonna talk about it. But we do have the state rep on the line, and Will Sutton on the line. I do not want to keep them waiting, but we're going to put a pin in this because we're going to pick it up right where I put it down, because I want to discuss this with you. This is the idea of censorship and what Tulane University is allowing to come out and what they're suppressing. So at this moment, I want to welcome State Rep Cleo Fields and our co-host Will Sutton back to the morning show. Good morning, gentlemen. How y'all doing this morning?
Good morning, Dr. White. How are you? I haven't heard your voice in a minute.
That's you got to do better.
I know. I got to do much better. I'm slipping here. You know,
you got to do better. Well, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said, Will has me all disembobligated, always want me to talk to him and never give me a chance to talk with you.
Why would he try such a thing? I don't know. But I'm good. It's good
Sure,
to
he
have
wasn't
you here.
No.
And I keep calling you a state rep, but you're a congressman now. Let me put some respect on
Absolutely.
on that thing. Let me put some respect on that. Listen. Anytime you could avail yourself to us, it's always a pleasure. And I know we talked to Congressman Troy Carter earlier in the show, and we talked about this idea of the dismantling of FEMA and what would that mean. We also talked about that the big ugly bill is in the Senate, and once they make whatever adjustments they're going to make, it's going to come back to the House. And so we touched on that, and so we're going to absolutely touch on that with you. I'll let Will chime in because y'all are closer, and it'll just make for a better conversation. But I'll jump in as needed. But thank you so much, Congressman, for availing yourself to us this morning.
Yeah, please do. Please do. I thought it'd be good for our WBOK listening audience to have a reminder about the congressman's district because of course, most of our listeners are represented by Congressman Troy Carter, but Mr. Fields has been a powerhouse in Louisiana for quite a long time and been fighting for this district, not for him, but because we deserve better representation in the U.S. Congress. But, if we've followed that news off and on over the last several years, we may not remember which of the many districts that was proposed ended up being the district. So tell our listeners, where is your district, north, east, south, west, roughly, so people in New Orleans will remember who you represent.
Yeah. First, let me thank the two of you for having me this morning.
And to all your listeners across New Orleans and surrounding areas, it's good to be with you. The district is interesting, Will, you talk about the district, because any day now, including today, the Supreme Court will rule on the constitutionality of the district. We're in the Supreme Court now. There are plaintiffs in the sixth district who filed a lawsuit against the district saying it was a racial gerrymander. And of course, our response is the district is shaped the way it's shaped, not solely based on race, but politics. And so the Supreme Court heard the case, and they should be ruling any day now. The district comprised of 10 parishes: East Baton Rouge Parish, West Baton Rouge Parish, Pointe-Coupee, St. Landry, Avoyelles, Rapides, Natchitoches, DeSoto, and Cattle. And it moves from Baton Rouge to Shreveport. It encompasses rural areas of our state and also urban areas of our state. And it's a district that I'm familiar with. I've represented it before. But basically, that's the geographic boundaries of the district. I'm proud to represent it, and you know, we're not really district congressmen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are U.S. congressmen.
Right,
you know?
right.
We represent people all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason why we're from a particular district is because of the census and redistricting, and every member must be responsible for a district, but we're U.S. congresspersons.
Okay, so let's stick on the district for a minute, because you're right. SCOTUS could drop a ruling any day now. Then they'll be going on summer break after they hand out the rulings that they choose to hand out and return in October. Give us your perspective in advance of the ruling. What happens if they rule, and I'm going to say not in your favor, in our favor?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens if they rule otherwise?
Well, I mean, I do think that the Supreme Court needs to give states across the country guidelines as to how the Voting Rights Act should be interpreted.
Mm-hmm.
Since we got rid of subsection 5, I mean, it threw states like Louisiana, southern states, into chaos, because you know why they don't have 5, they have 2. And so the interpretation has been scattered across the country. You know, we interpreted one way, others interpreted another way. And so hence, that's why we end up with all of these lawsuits. The 2 newly created seats were Alabama and Louisiana. I seem to think that Louisiana and Alabama, quite frankly, are in a very good position, because let's take the case in Louisiana. I was chairman of the committee when we created the seat, and we built a very formidable record. And we won at every level. We won in district court, but not only that, we won in the Fifth Circuit, which is the most conservative district in the country. And then, of course, the Supreme Court, in fact, gave us some indication that we were right, that the state was right. I don't think the Supreme Court is going to interrupt the district, because here you have a district that's created with all parties on board. You got the legislature that drew it. You got the Attorney General that defended, and that was after a lot of fights, because the Attorney General, as you know, was initially against the district, but they got tired of losing, and it was going to cost the state a lot of money. And then you got the governor now on board.
And it's one of the first things he did, to say, let's get this done.
Because he was losing. And look, I want to give kudos to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and all of the other civil rights organizations, because but for them, we would have not been able to put up the kind of legal battle that we put up in the court. So I really do think that the courts, you know, the challenge today is the district is a racial gerrymander. And is it a racial gerrymander? It's you know, people say it looks the way it looks because of race. Well, it's really not. And we were very careful. I'm glad I chaired the committee at the time because the district that the NAACP and the plaintiffs brought forward was a much more compact district. And it was the politics of the state that changed the district from the compact district to this district. And that was not because of race. That was solely because of politics. So I think the plaintiffs in this instance have a very high burden, and I don't think the Supreme Court is going to, articulate that you can't have politics in politics. I mean, because you can't take the politics out of politics. But it was not drawn solely based on race. So I think it passes that constitutional muster. So I think we win. But having said that, what happens if we lose? If we lose, the court is going to have to give states some guidelines. And I don't want to, get in front of the courts, but I would hate to be the Supreme Court that rules that this district is unconstitutional, because then what? Louisiana's population is over a third, and there's 6 members of Congress, as you know, and only one before this seat is majority black. And we have shown the state, shown the Supreme Court, we've shown the world that we can draw 2 districts out of 6, and they can be just as compact as all the others. And the state chose to change it into a different district. So I think the Supreme Court is back is against the wall. I think ultimately they will rule that district is unconstitutional. But if they don't, they need to give us some clear guidelines. But whatever the Supreme Court decides, I'm going to follow. I mean, that's the last expression of the law.
Right.
And I keep telling people, we can't have it both ways. We got a president now that basically, if he don't like a ruling, he blames the court and then want to say he's not going to follow it. That's when you destroy your democracy. I have confidence that the Supreme Court will do the right thing. But if they do the wrong thing, we're going to follow it and see where we go from there. But they can do one or two things. They can say, go back to the drawing boards, do it over. Or they could say, I know they're not going to say that, we can't draw a second black district because we did.
Right. Well, let's talk about FEMA. One of the president's latest moves is to say, well, let's get through this hurricane season, but when it ends, which actually is officially November 30th, that we're going to dismantle FEMA, and we're going to send some money to the states, and we're going to expect the states to handle their own disasters. How would that look for Louisiana, and what do you think of that decision?
Well, it's like most of his decisions. They're not well thought out, I mean, the president, with all due respect to the president, I mean, he's just someone who wakes up in the morning and if he wants to change the message from what people are talking about and do the diversion, he does things like this, we need to send the money back to the states. Well, FEMA does send the money back to the states, Now, is there some fraud? Is there some waste and some abuse in FEMA? Yes, that's in every federal department in this country, and we should weed it out. But to say we're going to do away with FEMA and send the money back to the state is asinine. It makes absolutely no sense. Now, and that's why you have not seen at least the congressional delegation. I don't even think you've seen the state. The governor, state leaders, embrace that concept, because at the end of the day, who benefits the most from FEMA? We do, and for good reasons. States, when they're hit, they're not in a position, no matter how much money they have, they're just not in a position to respond to their own disasters. The purpose of FEMA is to bring all the federal agencies together and assist a state, no matter where it's located in the nation, when they have a disaster. We used to have it because we have so many. And it just makes no sense. It sounds good, give the money to the states. What would have happened if the state had a block grant, I guess, during Katrina? What we were going to do with the money? Man, we were so disobligated, for lack of a better word, when we were hit. We needed the resources and the organization from the federal government. That's the whole purpose of FEMA. When a state is in the midst of a natural disaster, somebody got to come in with cool heads and bring all the federal agencies to assist. So I'm not for that, and I don't think this Congress would be for that. Certainly, I don't think the Louisiana delegation, be they Republican or Democrat, would be for this. Because it's not well thought out.
Well, I can't imagine how any elected official in Louisiana, local, parish, state, can support the idea of stopping funds to help people when they're at one of their most vulnerable situations. People can get, maybe it's just a few $100s, but it's helpful at the moment. They can get housing assistance with the proper application that they would not get, and that in some cases that can be aside from insurance. We've experienced so many of these things, and FEMA deals with states like California or snowstorms in the Northeast or Philadelphia, and more recently the hurricane that hit in the more western part of North Carolina, not even the coast. So I can't imagine that those officials in those other states and officials in our state would want to see, okay, what do we have to do? What do we have to cut to provide enough emergency assistance?
Well, right now it sounds good when the president articulates we're going to send the money to the states because the states are in the best position to deal with their own disasters. It sounds good because, of course, if you're a state, you say, yeah, send me the money and let me handle it all, But the truth of the matter, it's a terrible practice. It's an absolute terrible practice. The federal government, one of the roles of the federal government is to protect the general welfare of its citizens. And every state should have an agency to turn to in times of disasters. People, when they say FEMA, they always think about hurricanes.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, natural disasters happen.
Tornadoes, snowstorms, the wildfires.
And then you can have other kind of natural disasters. You can have where natural disasters, rather. And you can have, I hate to say it, but you can have planes, running into. Those are, the federal government plays a role in that. And I can't see why people don't understand that is the role of us to respond when our citizens are under, and I hate to, for lack of a better word, under attack, be it under attack by hurricane, be it under attack, what happened in California, in New York. That was a role for FEMA.
Right.
New York couldn't handle that. New York was in disarray, like we were, doing, Katrina. A state is in total disarray, and that's when the federal government should come in and assist in the disaster.
Dr. White, I know we've got to go to break in a minute. Perhaps we can pick up on the other side with talking about SNAP and maybe reconciliation.
If you're just joining us, we're in conversation with Congressman Cleo Fields. Y'all stay with us here on the other side of the break. We'll have more with the congressman right here at WBOK 1230 AM. What New Orleans is talking about
all day long.
This is your news update for WBOK from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Another partly cloudy day, hot, and chances for showers and storms. Highs reach the low 90s, but could feel as hot as 105. Scattered showers and storms arrive this afternoon with that daytime heating. Heavy downpours are possible with strong winds, but not everyone will see the rain. More of the same as we go into Friday and into the weekend. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
New Orleans, are you ready for a voice that says what you're thinking? Who that, you might ask? Arrington Gavin. That's right, I'm your guy, host of the Arrington Gavin Show, giving you so much filled with bold opinions, real conversations, and zero sugarcoating. We're going to be diving into the issues that matter, politics, pop culture, and all the above, unfiltered and unafraid. Catch the Arrington Gavin Show weeknights from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Fridays, right here on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
Welcome to Chemical of the Month by the community scientists at Rise St. James. This month, we spotlight phthalates, chemicals added to plastics, especially PVC, to make them more flexible and durable. But there's more. Research shows phthalates may disrupt hormones, affect reproductive health, and contribute to environmental pollution impacting our communities. Join us as we explore how these additives shape our everyday lives and the world around us. For more details, visit risestjames.org. Empower your knowledge with Rise.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 12:30 a.m. on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Hey everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Bryant Banks from the front porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
And we are back. Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Shout out to my super producer, Nyra Sanders, and my co-host, Will Sutton. Hey, Will.
Good
right
morning.
now, we are in conversation with our Congressman, Cleo Fields. But before we jump back to the Congressman, I want to tell you 2 quick announcements. We want to say Happy Father's Day. It is June. It's Father's Day month. And the Melody Cloud Singers are performing gospel music in concert style this Sunday, June 15, 2025 at 4 p.m. And that is taking place at First Evangelist Baptist Church, 1801 Willow Street, right here in New Orleans. And the New Orleans United Front is hosting its monthly town hall meeting Monday, June 23rd at 5 p.m. in the Healing Center at Cafe Istanbul. I will serve as your moderator. We will have guest panelist Chuck Perkins. He's the author of the new book, Beautiful and Ugly Too, as well as a meet and greet for all candidates vying for office in the October elections. It's happening on Monday, 5 p.m., June 23rd, Healing Center at Cafe Istanbul. And right now, we're going to jump right back to our Congressman, Cleo Fields. Welcome back to the show, Congressman.
It's good to be back.
Absolutely. It's good to have you. And Will wanted you to kind of touch on what is happening with the SNAP as it relates to the big, ugly bill. You want to give your input there?
Yes, ma'am. And let me just say before I do, I often say when Will calls, I say, well, there's a will, there's a way, But look, this big, ugly bill is in the Senate. And it really does nothing to help the damned, doomed, the downtrodden. It really helps the big billionaires with tax breaks. and it cuts Medicaid. Listen, Louisiana here again. Louisiana is a state, an expansion state. We per capita probably have more people on Medicaid than any other state in the nation, and people who benefit from the SNAP benefits. It's crucial to feed these hungry babies. Babies will go unfed at night with this bill. People will lose their health insurance with this bill, and it's a time for us to not look at D versus R, Democrat versus Republican, because a baby crying at night for milk, it's not a Democratic baby or a Republican baby. It's a hungry baby. And if we feed people all over the world, we certainly need to feed people here in this country. Now, I know that, people have these nice talking points where they say, a guy who's, can work sitting in his basement playing on a PlayStation need to get up and go out and work and not get benefits from the federal government. Those scenarios I agree with, but this bill doesn't do that. This bill, attack people who have benefits, who deserve benefits, who will miss their 6-month registration, and it will take their benefits from them. So when they talk about this is only to get people who are not U.S. citizens off of the federal dime, people who are able to work not working off of the federal dime. There's a state that tried this. I think it was Arkansas, and I apologize if it's, but it was one of the states southern to our border. They tried this, and what happened? Innocent people lost their health care benefits because of reporting requirements. This bill also provides for part-time students won't be able to benefit. You got to be full-time. They, for their Pell Grant, they raised it from 13 hours to now 15 hours. And then to add insult to injury, we increased the deficit. When I thought the whole purpose was we increased the deficit. I thought the whole purpose was to decrease it. We increased the deficit. Now, there are numbers. Some say $2 trillion. I'm going to stick with the number of $5 trillion we increased it by. Look, it's just totally off base, and I'm against it now. I'm going to be against it tomorrow, and hopefully the Senate will be the adults in the room and change it, and when it comes back, it'll be a better bill.
What can you all do, being a minority party, to find enough Republicans who are willing to say the whole thing is bad, or at least some key parts like SNAP is not the way to go?
Right. We're at a disadvantage as a party. We have lost 3 members. 3 members, and the bill passed by 1 vote when it passed the House. Mm-hmm. If we would have any one of those 3 members here, who predeceased, who died no fault of their own, but that shows you just how terrible this bill is, and it was over 1,000 pages, and after they passed the bill, there were members of their own party that said, well, look, I didn't know this was in it. I didn't know that was in it. Had I known it, I wouldn't have voted for it. And so at the end of the day, there is a shot. We could drastically modify or kill the bill. But we will see what happens in the Senate. And until they address the Medicaid issue and the SNAP issues in the bill, I'm not voting for it.
Dr. Wyatt?
Yeah, listen, I'm hoping that we can get a few more Republicans to not vote for it too, Congressman, because that's really all it's going to take to turn the tide here. I was kind of taken aback that Marjorie Taylor Greene The thing that she did take issue with in the bill had nothing to do with hungry children or making certain that the American people could feed themselves. It was literally about her not wanting a technology line item in there as it relates to states' rights. I thought that was very telling. She's worried about that, but not Medicaid, Medicare, and food for the most vulnerable population. So I thank you for your service, you and Congressman Troy Carter. We appreciate you here in the state of Louisiana. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for being here this morning. I know it's early, but thank you for doing it. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. And look, Congressman Carter and I, we work together. And in, I guess, 99.9% of the issues that we have voted on, we vote together because we're here to represent the people who sent us here. And that's why it's so important to have 2 versus 1. You know, I mean, now we got, if this district was not, the way it is now, we would only have 1 vote against this ugly bill.
Yeah.
But now we got 2 certain no votes against this ugly bill. But, we've been through a lot. And the good thing about it all, we're going through it. We're not going to stay in it. In 17 months, people all across the nation will have the opportunity to go to the polls and vote for their member of Congress. And hopefully we can at least take the House back then. And then we can slow down a lot of these draconian rules that the president is putting forward.
Well, thank you so much, Congressman. Listen, it's been a dynamic show. We want to give a special shout out to our congressmen, Congressman Troy Carter and Congressman Cleo Fields for joining us this morning on a Good Morning Show. We have to wrap the show. I appreciate all of you who are listening, all of you who are engaging in the chat, and all of you who continue to listen each and every day. But y'all stay tuned up next for the Front Porch with Graylin and Kimber. But as far as the Good Morning Show, Dr. Ashanti, Will Sutton, and Nyra Sanders, we're going to see y'all on the other side. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about.
All day long.
All day long. See y'all later.
All night long.
Have you heard